Good evening. Welcome back to another season of Ask the Doctor. The Steelers don't start for an hour, so stay tuned. Good evening and welcome to the Ask the Doctor show. Tonight's guest is Dr. John Landis, board certified emergency room doctor, director of the Canonsburg emergency room. John, thanks for being on the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me again.
We're going to start out this season talking about emergency room issues, and as it turns out, we have a new emergency room to talk about along with emergency room issues.
That we do. Brand new, opened up July 24th of this year.
Perfect.
And it's been gangbusters busy there, so that's good for us.
Excellent. And while we're going to do our little promo and advertisement, if you'd like to find a telephone number, jot our phone number down, give us a call. We're going to talk about anything related to emergency room visits, emergency room injuries, and if you'd like to, why you should come to the emergency room.
Sounds good.
Sounds like
good.
a plan?
Yep, sounds good.
Okay.
Do we want to roll the video?
Sounds like a plan. If we've got the video queued up and ready to roll, we'll just have right at it, and we can talk right over as this is going on.
Yep, I think it's a good place to start.
We started this emergency room how long ago?
As far as I know, it was about 2001 the plans were put into place.
Okay.
And there were various iterations of the plan, and it looks like we have it here. That's a look at the outside of the department when you drive up. Where it pan past quickly is where you enter, down where that ambulance was. Well, here's the ambulance entrance that hopefully no one will have to use, but it has its own dedicated entrance with a decontamination area when you come in through that ambulance entrance. It's state of the art from when you get out of the ambulance until you get right into the department. And that's the Sola Bay EMS suite. And those are some of our Canonsburg paramedics doing some documentation and whatnot in the dedicated EMS room. And that's our waiting room with Austin's playroom that was graciously donated by the Lemieux Foundation. It's really a nice waiting room. Fortunately, it's usually empty because all the patients are in the back. And that's a look at the new expanded department. If anybody's been to the old department, I think you can see how it's significantly bigger, better, and much improved. The layout is very conducive to taking care of patients. There's nursing documentation areas and physician documentation areas.
How many rooms do you have?
18.
Okay.
And that's one of the trauma rooms with the extra light that was added courtesy of Dr. Hammell.
Excellent.
Input. State-of-the-art trauma rooms can take care of absolutely anything at this department at any of the other institutions in the area and in Pittsburgh. That's a general exam room. They're all set up the same so that care is pretty seamless and consistent. There's computers. You can see the computer monitors on the wall. We are in the process of working on a computerized documentation system which should help you look at the patient's records, but we have lots of information technology in this department that was missing from the old department. And there's our digital x-ray suite that we tried to look at some CTs this morning. But that's a real time saver.
And it's connected right to the emergency department?
Connected right to the emergency department, right to these reading screens, and we can also pull it up on any screen within the department so we can show patients their fractures and whatnot within the department. So that's a look at the new place.
How
It's real nice.
How many square feet?
It's 11,000, including the new outpatient area, which the outpatient area, of course, leads to the new outpatient waiting room.
Perfect. And we'd like to again thank all the sponsors, all the volunteers. I mean, we raised millions of dollars.
Absolutely.
When we say we, not us two, but the hospital raised millions of dollars, and we thank everyone, even for any donations that they may have had, because it certainly contributed to a phenomenal facility.
It's a phenomenal facility. It's very, very nice to work in. It really takes care of patients very nicely. It streamlines patient flow, and the last thing you want to be doing in an emergency department is waiting around to be seen. And we really did away with that. We're able to bring people back and get them taken care of in those 18 rooms very quickly. So that's what you want.
So if you're watching this and you're stuck in another emergency room somewhere, feel free to come on down, because we can get you in and out fairly expeditiously.
Absolutely.
Okay.
We're there for you if you need us.
This is the time of the year that I'm sure we see a lot of cuts and scrapes and bumps and bruises. When does somebody who has one of these, because we always hear in the newspaper about Mrs. Snodgrass has this scratch and then she got this overwhelming infection and she died.
Right.
I mean, when does somebody come to the emergency room with a cut, bump, or bruise? When should it be? When should we get serious and say, hey, let's go have a doctor look at that?
Sure. Well, there's no hard and fast rule. Certainly if the bleeding won't stop, but I see quite often too many lacerations that are a couple of days old, and people say, well, it keeps bleeding. At that point, you really can't suture it up. You have to let it heal. So if it continues to bleed and it's open and you can see fat or bone or tendon, you certainly ought to have that attended to and sutured up in a timely fashion.
So that's enough to get your attention. So you bring up a great point. I never really even thought about that, and that is, if you get a cut, if you get you think it's deep enough, I would assume, are there any length issues, like a ½ inch, an inch, or?
Well, there's really not, Dr. Hammell. You can have a laceration that's less than a centimeter, and it continues to bleed and really just needs a couple of stitches put into it.
Okay.
So there's not really any definite length issue.
Okay. How about the time issue? Because you brought up a good point with the time.
Right. Well, as far as the time issue goes, it's really best to have like a laceration on the face. We have about 24 hours, actually. As you well know, the blood supply to the face is pretty significant. So we have a good 12 to 24 hours to get that sewn up. Okay. On the hand is a different story. You really need to get that taken care of, and that's where most of our cuts, of course, come in. People washing dishes, picking up knives out of the sink in soapy water, and typically it will be cut, for less than 12 hours. You really like to get them seen within 4 to 6 hours, and all of that's related to infection. The overgrowth of bacteria within the wound. Okay.
Now we give out millions of tetanus shots every year. Is there any hard and fast rule for who needs a tetanus shot? Because everyone always says, I got cut, do I need a tetanus shot?
Right. Well,
that's my typical patient's voice that I'm mimicking there.
Sure. There certainly is hard and fast rules. You should have a tetanus shot if you sustain a tetanus-prone injury, and that's really pretty much any cut these days. It's really hard to determine what a tetanus-prone wound is. It used to be thought if it was contaminated with soil and whatnot.
The old rusty nail.
Yeah, the old rusty nail.
The guy walking on his bare feet in the farmyard steps on the rusty nail.
Yeah, exactly.
Have you ever seen that guy?
I've seen a few of them.
Okay.
Puncture wound in the foot.
Okay,
absolutely.
there you have
we see those quite frequently.
Okay. That's why I don't work in the emergency room.
Well, there you go. Leave it to us.
That's right. I was absent from medical school that day.
Were you?
Yes.
Yeah, that was a
If you watch the show, you'll see that throughout the year that I missed a couple of days here.
Just a couple of days, though.
Here and there.
So 5 years if you sustain an injury, and 10 years is the cutoff for just having a typical update for your tetanus shot.
Okay.
Right.
Perfect. That's excellent.
Good.
Okay.
That's
What's
wounds.
Next? That's wounds. That's pretty much wounds. How about dog bites? I got a ferocious dog at home. I don't know if I ever told you about it. Yeah. I saw your dog, now deceased, I might add. I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, well,
but you have two more.
We still have 2 more.
I have a ferocious dog just about like that.
Yeah, well,
I have a Yorkie.
A Yorkie?
Yeah, it's almost 2 pounds.
Right. Yeah. We could have a miniature dachshund Yorkie race or something.
We could. A dog fight.
Dog bites
I'd
are
use
tough,
butter
though.
knives.
Dog bites, we see a lot of them in kids in the face because they get right down in the dog's face. And those can be really pretty significant.
Repeat that again, because that's very important, and I tell my kids that all the time. You got to tell these young parents that.
Dog bites with kids in the face. I would say children 6 and under, they'll typically get in the dog's face. They'll get into a staring contest with the dog, and usually the child will lose when they get into a staring contest.
And you know, I don't mean to be funny, but that is so key that we have to emphasize that. Do not let these kids stare at that dog, because I don't care how small the dog is.
Right.
You can get a little nip on the face, and then, you know, you have major issues.
That's right. Nip on the face, you know, worse are nips on the face that really are cosmetic, you know, take off part of a lip or something like that. You know, we've sent a number of children from Canonsburg down to Children's Hospital to have their plastic surgeons repair these wounds. So, but just general dog bites on the extremities, they require the same tetanus prophylaxis or tetanus update if it's needed. And typically we don't sew those because of the risk of infection. We used to think that if we could maybe sew them up loosely, that would do it, but we just typically don't sew them at all.
And you put these folks on antibiotics?
We do put them on antibiotics, yep. We put them on...
Is that the one to cover pastorella?
No, that's actually in cats.
Oh, well, see, there you go. I was absent that day, too.
Yeah, that's cats.
I read that, though.
Right.
I read that, okay, cats.
That's cats. There's Eikenella and some other bacteria within.
Okay, now you're going to be a name dropper.
Yeah, I'm going to be a name dropper. Eikenella, old friend Eikenella.
Eikenella.
Yep, you missed that day?
No, I was there that day. I was there the day that Eikenella was talked about.
Yeah.
You know, oddly enough, I thought that was one of the lecturers.
No.
It turns out it's bacteria.
Yeah, it's bacteria. Probably named after Ike. Ike something or other. But, right, that's in the dog's mouth.
I was really good the first couple years of medical school. I kind of trailed off just a little bit for a while. And I came back strong at the end.
Yeah, well, you had to be a surgeon.
That's right.
That's a tough specialty.
There you go.
Yeah.
We have our guest tonight is Dr. Landis. If you've just tuned in, mistakenly looking for the Steelers. The Steelers don't start at least for another 45 minutes. I'm certain Big Ben's going to play tonight, so sit down and relax. If you have questions and would like to call us tonight, Dr. Landis is a board-certified expert in emergency medicine. We can talk about any topic you'd like to talk about. We have a call-in number. There it is. They're always ahead of me, 942-0136. Obviously, if you call tonight, 9:18, that would be great. The date's 9:18. If you try to call when we're on tape, it probably wouldn't answer quite as readily. What's the next topic?
Whatever you'd like to talk about.
Let's talk about fractures. Let's talk about my kids. We got at least one broken bone a year.
Do you?
Oh yeah. We had a skateboard incident last year. Skateboard in the front yard.
Right.
On the grass.
How old are your kids
down the hill? 16, 14, 12, and 6.
My goodness, you got a whole almost a
All
basketball
girls.
team.
We got a basketball team.
All girls.
Yeah, they play
One's a good
basketball,
golfer too, I heard.
Two of them are good golfers.
Two of them.
Two of them. Two's a singer, one's an actress, one's hysterical. They're all hysterical at times.
Yeah, well, I've got 3 boys. They're hysterical.
Well, there you
at
understand.
times too. Right.
But yeah, we had an incident. We had, we had a situation. You know, rollerblading down the grassy knoll.
Down the grassy knoll.
Down the grassy knoll, and we broke that wrist.
Yeah. How old was the?
She was 15 at the time when she did that.
Okay.
And
probably wasn't a clean break.
It was one of those green sticks because she hadn't closed up her joints yet.
Right.
But when you get that call as a parent, as a surgeon, it's really simple. Just go see John.
Right.
But I mean, if somebody's just sitting out there saying, you don't want to seem like you're a fascist and make your kid just go put some ice on it. So I mean, when do you bring the child in? Usually it's a child.
Sure.
When do you bring the child in to see you? I mean, sprained ankle. You must get millions of those. I mean,
sure.
When do you bring somebody in for that?
Right. We do get quite a few of those, and it's there's no hard and fast rules. I've sat on a broken collarbone in my own son for 2 days. But
beautiful.
Yeah, it is. But
CYS is probably watching the show.
Well, yeah, that's kind of a joke in our family.
Yeah,
because,
I bet they
one
are.
of them's had so many stitches that.
We joke.
It's a CYS
my
case
government,
there.
I understand.
Yeah, but there's no real hard and fast rule. If it's persistently swollen, kids generally in 12, 24 hours they'll start using something again.
Right.
And so if it's just sprained or bruised or something,
usually they'll move it.
They'll move it.
When they're not moving it, it's time to come on in.
Right. When they're not moving it,
swollen. If you see a bone, that's always a good. That's a
key
get in right
indicator.
away.
Right.
Open
bone,
fractures.
Yeah. Bone equals go to the
Josh is
emergency
going. Yeah,
department.
that sounds.
That's
I
right.
could be a doctor. Okay, good.
But after you ice it for a while, if they're continuing to complain of pain, and there's not any, we're really talking about those occult ones, those ones that are really hard to decide, and
We don't do
if
a
it's
cult
not-
till Halloween, just so you know.
Okay, all right. Well, I saw the skeleton back
I
here.
understand.
thought
That's
we
Mr.
were
Bones.
close.
That's
Mr. Bones, okay.
back there.
And
Mr.
you're
Bones
usually
is always-
dealing with
he's
upper
the guys
extremities.
always get him in the shot there. Mr. Bones is the only guy on stage that have more hair than. It's the
Yeah.
only guy. Yeah,
Probably the only guy you're younger than. Too.
Well, just about.
Just about.
Okay, so let's talk. We're 15 minutes into the year, and it's time for me to pick on the Joe six-pack that's sitting there. He just cracked his second six-pack. He's smoking his Marlboros, and he's getting a little chest pain.
Right.
When does Joe six-pack with his Marlboros and his chest pain? When should he come to the emergency room?
Immediately.
Immediately.
Right.
Okay.
Good
point.
It's.
I'm glad you said that. It's another brilliant thing you've said tonight. It's
I was
erudite.
there every day of medical school.
Well, see, I missed a couple. We've
Right.
been through this stuff.
But we do certainly see a significant number of people that come in late, and people who come in late, of course, are at much more risk for sudden.
They get to
cardiac
see
death.
the ambulance entrance as opposed to walking in the front entrance.
Well, yeah, they get to see the
Yes.
ambulance entrance,
But not for
and-
long.
Right. Well, and hopefully they don't get to see either the life flight exit
Right.
or the exit out the morgue door.
Right.
But we don't want to. You don't want to sit on chest pain. That's for
Thank
sure.
you.
Especially if if you have risk factors and fit into some of those things that are pretty common in the media these days.
Steeler Nation.
Males
The
over
Steeler
55. Yeah, the
The
Steeler Nation. There
the
you
guys
go.
that are walking up and sitting in the stands.
Right.
That I see.
A good portion of them, because it's quite a bit of obesity.
Yep.
Smoking is pretty prevalent here in Western Pennsylvania.
Oh, yeah.
And all sorts of medical problems, diabetes, high blood pressure, all those things that really put you at risk. So if you have those problems, you're a smoker, over 55. But 55 certainly we have seen 35-year-old.
Do not ignore chest pain.
Absolutely.
That's just come on and
Right.
see Dr. Landis.
Chest pain, arm pain, jaw pain. Certainly, if you're a diabetic, shortness of
Have you
breath
seen
can
him
be
with
the
just
presentation.
nausea as a presentation?
I have seen someone with an acute MI that's just had diarrhea.
Okay.
Yeah, just a little cramping in the belly and some diarrhea, and that's kind of that
Okay.
epinephrine
So
fight or flight release.
If you fall into that category, come on in and there's not a long wait in the waiting room, and we'll get you in quickly to see you.
Yeah, if you have chest pain, there's no wait in the waiting room.
Right.
Certainly, there's a list of priorities, and
Right.
chest pain and
If
belly
you roll
pain.
in at 2 in the morning complaining of ringing in your ears for a year, you might wait a couple of minutes.
Well, you still
There's
would
a
be put
chance.
into a room, but
Right.
But things. If there's other pressing things going on, then certainly ringing in the ears.
Ringing in the ears is
For
not
a year.
doesn't for a year.
Not for the
Have
most
you seen
part.
that?
I have seen that.
I've
I have
seen that.
that.
A lot of that's
Yep.
going on.
Yep.
Lot of
You
that's
know,
going
you,
on.
you get the gamut of things.
understand.
People who think that you might be able to cure their 5-year ongoing problem, and the emergency department's not really set up for that. We're set up to diagnose
Acute emergencies.
acute emergencies, and
And as the
everyone.
general public, you're allowed to determine whatever you think an acute emergency is.
Absolutely, and that's a good thing.
Yeah.
A few years ago they tried to put some
Yeah.
laws in place that.
Yeah, but fortunately, the insurance companies got back down a little bit on that, and so
Right.
the average guy, if you feel it's an emergency, that is for the most part covered except for the deductible, correct?
That's
Even
correct.
if it turns out to be, because I think if you're sitting out there going, well, this pain will go away, it's just an indigestion, right?
Right.
So how many people have you seen with indigestion that turned out to have a heart attack?
Countless,
Okay.
really. It's
Right.
those are common. Yeah, I was rifting a bit, and
Right.
I thought it was
Yeah.
just some indigestion, so I didn't come in. And
Right.
most of the time, those people have had a small MI, and they usually
Right.
have had it sometime previous.
And so those are the tragedies that we talk about, and sometimes I'm a little lighthearted on the subject, but we're trying to drive the point across, is that do not ignore any pain, chest or abdomen, for a significant period of time if it's new.
That's
if it's
correct.
something old and your doctor's seen it and they've had stress tests, all that other stuff, well, maybe they give them a jingle. There's going to be credits at the end that say, don't pay attention to anything we say, because heaven forbid we give you medical advice on TV and you follow it directly.
Right.
And then you sit there and something bad happens. So obviously, if there's a problem, go to the emergency room. Call your
That's right.
doctor. But go to the emergency room. Don't wait for your doctor to call you. He may actually be tied up in another emergency, doing something, at church praying, who knows. But that's a great take-home point that John has brought up tonight is Don't ignore chest pain. Don't ignore even indigestion if it's new onset. Come on and let somebody evaluate you. And call your doctor first. Do we have a call? Okay. I think there's a call. No? Maybe?
I heard the phone.
We're checking it out. It could be anybody calling.
Right. And the same goes with, Gene, goes with stroke symptoms.
Okay, let's talk about stroke symptoms.
Certainly we see people that come in with symptoms that are suggestive of stroke, but typically, a stroke is painless. People will come in, an occlusive stroke is painless. Okay. People will come in saying, oh, I had this pain in my arm, I thought I might be having a stroke. The typical stroke symptoms might be weakness on the side of the body, difficulty with your speech, difficulty with your vision, difficulty swallowing, some of those neurologic things that are new, numbness on the side of the body, numbness in an arm or a leg isolated.
Anything we can do for those acutely?
Well, there certainly are. Allegheny General has just been certified as a stroke center. Okay. UPMC is a stroke center. So certainly there's resources within the area. We have Life Flight available pretty much at a phone call. They're a good 7-8 minutes away coming from Pittsburgh. And we're able to get people downtown pretty quickly. But the key is getting in, and getting in as soon as you start to have some of those stroke symptoms. There's really a 3-hour window.
What's the youngest person you've ever seen with a stroke?
Well, I have seen a young lady that was pregnant and about 23 years old and had a hypercoagulable, or blood was too thick, so to speak.
Was she on birth control pills beforehand?
She was not, no. And it was felt to be a manifestation of the pregnancy, plus this undiagnosed, I think it was a protein S deficiency or something of that nature.
So, I mean, we beat up the diabetics and we can't do anything about diabetes unless you're getting diabetes because you weigh 400 pounds. If you're type 1 diabetic, you don't have to weigh 400 pounds, but certainly smoking. And I ask all my patients the same thing. Can they read English? Because they've taken great liberties to write on the pack, warning, don't do this. And, that's really tough. But if you're a smoker, if you're overweight, don't ignore these symptoms.
That's right.
Get in, because if you wait too long, then there's virtually nothing that can be done. But if you get in soon enough, there's sometimes we're able to help you out to some significant degree.
Right.
Correct?
That's correct. Sometimes we will send them down to Pittsburgh for clot-busting medications. Sometimes they'll put a catheter right on top of the blood clot and drip medication onto it to dissolve it.
If somebody thinks they're having chest pain or having one of these, does it benefit them to take an aspirin before they come see you?
It does. It does. Actually, aspirin is one of the few medications that has really been shown to be beneficial in stroke and in heart attack. We have all these other multi-million-dollar industry of medications, but aspirin is one little baby aspirin. What are those, pennies? They cost pennies. Those are certainly are beneficial. That
lifesavers.
They're lifesavers. That's a key indicator that even the government looks at, that we provide anybody that comes in with chest pain and has a heart attack that they get aspirin. It's antiplatelet activity. Prevents blood clots, and it's a very good medication.
I paid attention that day at medical school.
Good.
Just wanted to let you know.
Great.
When we have Dr. Landis here tonight, John Landis is our emergency room director at Canonsburg. We have a brand spanking new 12,000 plus square foot emergency department with, how many rooms did you say, John?
18.
18 rooms, willing to help you be seen quickly. But we need you to get to the emergency room when certain problems exist rather than waiting for too long. We had a patient the other day, just actually today, as you recall, came in, ate at one of the fast food restaurants over the weekend, developed some nausea, some abdominal pain, diarrhea, and thought he had quote-unquote food poisoning. But it's kind of funny that we always look to blame, like, that's the fast food place.
Sure.
But for as many meals that are served at these fast food restaurants, it's amazing that there's not a significant plethora of foodborne illnesses.
Right.
But then of course he gets severe abdominal pain, and instead of coming to the emergency room Saturday, which would have been nice, he comes in 4 o'clock this morning.
Right.
with his not only gangrenous but gangrenous and perforated appendix.
Right.
And that's why we tell you when we harp on you, hey, look, if you have pain, if the pain is significant, if it's acute onset, if on a scale of 1 to 10 it's over a 5, come see Dr. Landis. Call your doctor, but say I'm going to see the emergency room. Now, obviously, if it's 10 o'clock in the morning and Dr. X can see you, great, go see him.
Right. Right.
But otherwise, get to the emergency room to be seen.
Right. A good portion of the time, Dr. X will send him up to the emergency department, as you well know.
Right.
We're equipped to diagnose these things, and
Right.
they're really not in the office.
Right. If it's chest pain or something like that,
Right.
just go to the emergency room. Do
Right.
not pass go. Do not collect $300.
Right, right. Well, and you mentioned fast food restaurants, and most likely a significant number of people that have foodborne illnesses obtained at a fast food restaurant really will obtain it from, and then pass it on their own. They'll have 12 hours of diarrhea and vomiting and think they have 24-hour flu, and that will be the end of it. Typically, we don't see those people. We really don't. You really come into outbreak areas like we have now with the E. coli on the spinach. Everybody and their brother that's had spinach in the past week is now showing up saying, my belly hurts a little bit. I think I got that bad E. coli. And then we had the bit with one of those Mexican restaurants that I won't name that had.
Well, they're done anyway. You can name them what you want.
Well, yeah, it was bad Mexican food anyway. Being from Texas as I am.
I understand. I understand.
They had the
hepatitis
C. Was it? No, it was A. No, it was A.
It was bad.
It was bad, right? It killed a few people, and certainly it is not something you want to not pay attention to if you have those symptoms.
Simple, matter of fact things, just the routine stuff, right? Wash your hands.
Right. Hand washing. Hand washing is certainly the key to preventing any spread of infection. We in our new emergency department, we really beefed up the hand washing ability and put sinks with pedals. As you know, pedal sinks you're much more likely to because it's a problem in healthcare too. But most healthcare individuals don't wash their hands as much as they should.
You got 30 seconds to wrap it up.
All right. What should we talk about in 30 seconds?
You can talk about how you want everybody to come see you.
Well, I would like, if you need us, we're certainly there. We have a very streamlined approach to the way we take care of patients. We bring them directly back to a room, and we don't dilly-dally around with them. We get you taken care of. And
state-of-the-art facilities, state-of-the-art emergency room doctors, all board certified, all brilliant, and all quite as handsome as you.
Yeah, not quite.
Thanks for coming.
All right, thank you.
Be safe. Don't drink, don't drive. Don't run over the little people running on the side of the roads. Slow down. Take it easy.
Go Steelers.
Go Steelers. See you next week. How about go Buccos? Swept the
I saw that.
Swept the Mets.
Kept them out of the playoffs, didn't they?
How about that? Oh, they're
keeping the champagne.
Gonna roll now.